virtual wires, just like you're actually plugging in boxes of things to do different things. And it's a great programming environment in that well, it's really geared for live theater. It can be used for a lot of different things, but I found it very useful to be able to like put our work on a timeline, to have each scene mapped out in the computer. And so we don't, like for our somewhere piece, which in that work in progress version was like maybe 20 minutes, you just press the button at the very beginning and then it does everything from there on out. The camera, all the camera moves are programmed into it, all the zooms and zoom outs and the music and everything is all there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You can call me Sheldon.
Thank you. I had a general question actually for the panel. I'm kind of coming from it on the other side as a technical person, someone who's worked with media probably for the last 20 years of my life and done all sorts of stuff. And I guess the question for me is that it seems to me the dominant foundation of what everyone's doing seems to be sampling. And sampling is something that's been around for a long time, especially like you can look at hip hop culture and see the way sampling's, you know, sort of involved with like breakdancing or things like that. But what I'm curious about is that like, for instance, the Gadget piece reminded me of Emergency Broadcast Network. You might know about them in New York City. They did a lot of stuff with early VJ mixing and stuff like that. And I know that as systems get cheaper and you're able to do more things that sort of can utilize or use the agency of sampling, the question for me is how is modern dance approaching like avatars, telepresence, poetry? Like what's the combination of all these things? Because they're being recombined right now. But I want to know what specifically, in terms of the communication of what dance sort of is, like what specifically can modern dance add to the picture? I think that's why I came here tonight, to see how technology and like the dancer of your show, like you said that it was about intimacy, and I think that that's really great. I just like to hear a lot. I guess maybe the panel discuss that, because I guess I understand the feature of sampling, and I know that it might be new to the community as a whole, but there still seems to be like a sort of pinnacle that can be approached. So that's my geeky question, sorry.
Yeah, can I just grab it for a second? Because the sample's a thing, right? And that's a big part of what media allows us to do, is to grab things that just happened or that happened a long time ago and sort of rework with them, or things that are happening right now and rework with them. It's really hard to get into the future right now, you know, so it's all in one sense about how to deal with what just happened is what mostly media does. And, you know, what can we do with it? I worked on a show with a guy named Bill Shannon, Crutchmaster. It was a hip hop show. We captured break dancers trying to do ridiculous tricks and failing. Like that was the purpose. It was about failure. And we were plowing through the show, we'd do this thing and somebody would do like air flare to 1990 or whatever, some like thing, and we'd stop, we'd be like, whoa, 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 and like stop the show, back up, play it back frame by frame. Oh man, your elbow broke down here and this and that. And like we start to get funny with, like if we were watching a TV show that things were going wrong, I don't think that would air so long. You know what I mean? It's like...
Or it's the future of TV.
Or it's the future of TV. You know? It's like the Chuck Clark show, whatever those like live action, you know, TV shows were in the beginning, which are emulating theater. You know, maybe we're going to head back that way. I don't know if we're going to do that or not, because it'll be the remix, you know,
it'll be
2010
like
or whatever.
Big Brother. I mean, you know, the reality shows are already like live TV, but I think the next version will be actually like live sampling and remixing of Big Brother as it's happening. I don't know. I think that would be interesting. But I feel like, I mean, it's a hard question to answer because I'm not sure. It's pretty open-ended. But I feel like sampling is just one tool. It's just one thing. And I think that's something that, you know, we've been talking about too, is when it comes down to it, all of these are just tools for, you know, it's in a way there's artists are always going to use whatever media and tools they have accessible to them to communicate what they want to communicate, and God only knows like what the tools will be in 20 years, you know. and what we'll want to communicate about those tools, with those tools. So I feel like it's natural to both, for every medium, to appropriate the tools and technology that is out there to its own means. And then also to appropriate what has been done with those tools to its own means, which is the interesting thing about sampling, is that originally sampling is maybe associated with hip-hop music and, you know, some of the places where it became popular first. But I already feel like that's already part of our vernacular, you know, I think for our generation and younger generations. And so anything that becomes part of the vernacular becomes part of an artist's vocabulary to kind of talk about the world we live in, and I think it's also just always the question that I have about, in my own process and in stuff that I see, there's, on one hand, there's, it's sort of like, what's the pinnacle? Like, where can all this go? What can be done with it? And I feel like we talked about the opening ceremony of the Olympics recently. How many people saw that? The recent opening, ceremony in China. That was such a stunning moment to me to watch that in a way, and it's always stunning to watch things like that. But I think as somebody who works with media and technology and performance, for me, I feel like there's no end to what can be done with technology. And of course, you look at the cutting edge of technology. Most people in this room, we don't even actually know what it is yet, because it's happening in private research centers and highly funded places where it's so advanced that we haven't even seen it yet. But and of course we live in a world where that's getting that progress is happening more and more rapidly, and it kind of brings me back constantly to the question of, well, what is it that you want to do or say with those tools and those means? Because nothing that we ever do could ever match what was done at the Olympic opening ceremony. And so, in a sense, if it becomes like that, it's why? I think I'm interested in continuing to ask audiences, why would you come to a place like Counterpulse and see a little local artist do a little thing with media and technology and their own very limited body, no matter how virtuosic they are, their inherently mortal, dying, limited, imperfect body, compared to the machine of perfect bodies and perfect technology that we saw in something like the Olympic opening ceremony. I think I'm wandering a bit, but I hope you understand what I'm getting at.
Oh, I just wanted to throw in there too. I think what keeps coming up is the body. I think modern dance and dance in general, not just concert, Western dance, whatever, but dance in general is about our body and expressing with our body and live performance. But I would say that oftentimes the dance in particular prioritizes the body. It's not about the text. It's not about, I'm not trying to represent a text. It's actually, I'm just going to dance for you. I mean, if we're just talking about question about how dance is coming into this. And I also think that what's interesting about working with these technologists at Berkeley is it's so, they don't, just breaking down what is weight, when you see so much of motion capture, there's no weight. When you see the Incredible Hulk on those animated things, he just looks like he's floating, and he's supposed to be 500-pound Hulk. Yet the technology, it doesn't have weight yet. The body isn't in there yet. And so I think the more artists get involved and the more we start to bring our bodies and sweaty bodies into these spaces, and what our bodies know, then we're getting something really interesting happening.
I just want to say, so, sorry, Mr. Smith.
She's my wife. Well, this is quickly veering all over the place, but my response to that is but then why? Why do we need to have motion capture? Can't you just have a body in a room? Do you really need to have animation and everything else? And there's also that side to it that I think in our working with technology, we're constantly asking questions about what is the purpose of having all these extra gewgaws? Isn't it enough just to have this instrument, this technology, which is